What do you need to import from China? In this video, I'm going to answer exactly what you need to get your importing business up and going. Okay, the first thing that you're going to need to get importing from China is money. Yes, you need money to buy products. That's the biggest downside about importing from China, is that you need to spend a bunch of money to buy a bunch of products. Now, you can get started from anywhere from $500 to $2,000, somewhere in between perhaps is a more happy medium, but you are going to need money to get started importing from China. So save up a little bit of money and then you can actually start buying products from China. Now, once you actually buy those products, and the most popular places to buy those products, of course, are Alibaba or AliExpress. Unless you're actually traveling over to China to travel to trade shows, Alibaba is probably the easiest place to get started. Now, when you take that money and you wire money or PayPal that money to an Alibaba supplier to buy those products, well, now you need somewhere to sell them. So the next thing that you need importing from China is a Seller Central account, an Amazon Seller Central account. Now, yes, there's other ways to sell your products. eBay, your own website, even on Craigslist or Kijiji. But most often, you are going to be selling them on Amazon. So that's the first thing that you need to do. You need to go over to sellercentral.amazon.com and try setting up an Amazon Seller Central account and just get it open. For a professional plan, it's going to cost you $39 or so, but make sure that you can actually open this Seller Central account without being rejected from Amazon for a number of reasons. They're pretty good about approving almost all accounts that come through, but who knows? Maybe there's a reason that keeps you away from opening your Seller Central account. Perhaps you're in a country that they don't accept. Perhaps you have an ID verification problem. So do that first. Open your Seller Central account actually before you even buy your products, and that way you know that you have a platform to sell your products as soon as they arrive. So what are some nice things to have when you're importing from China? Well, you need to get these products into whatever country it is that you're importing them. Let's pretend that you're importing them into America. Well, in America, if your goods are below $800, you do not need what they call a formal customs declaration. That means that you can import these products without declaring any duties, without having to make a formal entry to US Customs telling them about your import. It's great. America is one of the countries with an extremely high, what they call de minimis import value, $800. The country I'm from, Canada, it's $20. So any shipment over $20, I got to pay duties, I got to declare it to the government. It's a real pain. But going into America, it's extremely simple if your shipments are below $800. But if they're not under $800, then you do need a customs broker to help you clear those goods into America. Now, the customs broker that we always refer at Ecom Crew is PCBUSA.com. We don't get a referral fee from them or a kickback of any sort, but they've done us well in all of our businesses. So that's the thing that you will need if you're importing a relatively large shipment into America, or even Canada for that matter, or any other country. You need a customs broker. The other thing that you're going to need is a freight forwarder, somebody to actually ship your products into whatever country it is that you're shipping them to. Now, if it's a small shipment, you're lucky. You can probably ship them via air with a courier like UPS or FedEx or DHL. If it's a larger shipment, you need to ship them on a boat. And that could mean either a pallet in a container with a bunch of other people's goods. That's called LCL freight. Or if you're massive and you have a huge order of products, you'll ship them all in a container on your own in what they call a full container load, FCL. But at some point, if you are shipping them pretty much via any method besides one of these, what they call air couriers, UPS or FedEx, that type of thing, you need a freight forwarder to help you arrange those shipments. Now, PCBUSA.com is also a customs broker and a freight forwarder. Try them out. There's a ton of customs brokers and freight forwarders out there. Google's your friend in this case. A couple other things that are nice to have when you're importing from China is first an inspection company. An inspection company is basically a set of Chinese eyes in China that's going to go to your factory and check out your goods for you to make sure they are looking like how you imagine they would look. So they'll do basic quality inspection tasks. Things like dropping your products from a distance and making sure they don't break immediately upon their arrival at the bottom of the ground. They'll make sure that there's no loose threads on t-shirts if you're importing them. These basic things just to make sure that your products are relatively good quality. Now again, like customs brokers, there are literally dozens and dozens of inspection companies in China. They all charge about $300 per what they say man day. So that's an entire day of a Chinese inspector going to your factory and inspecting your goods. The one that we at Ecom Crew use is Asia Inspection. This is probably the most popular inspection company in China, but again, there's lots of different inspection companies. The other thing that you will need when you are actually have your products arrived into America is that you need somebody to actually ship those products. Now, if you're like me when you first started off, you'll be shipping those boat anchors yourself. You'll be loading them up into your Cavalier and driving them to the post office. Thankfully, things have gotten a little bit easier in the past few years with things called third-party logistics providers. These are companies that will store your items for you and ship them for you for a relatively low price, normally around $2 to $3 per item. Amazon FBA is actually by far the most popular third-party logistics company. A lot of people think of Amazon as simply a selling platform. Yeah, that's true, but they're actually also a logistics company, and they can store your products for you and ship them for you. They'll even do something amazing. They'll take your products and ship them even for non-Amazon orders. So if somebody orders through eBay or your Shopify site, you can actually store your products at Amazon and ship them from Amazon. This is something they call multi-channel fulfillment. All right, let's talk about some things that you don't need, some misconceptions. So the first thing is that you don't need to have a strong knowledge of Chinese Mandarin or any written Chinese characters. Importing from China is relatively easy for us monolingual dinosaurs like me. You do not need to speak the language. Most Chinese factories have at least some basic competency of English, and you can get by with English relatively okay. Now, it does become a little bit of a barrier sometimes and a little bit frustrating that there are confusions when you're communicating with your supplier. They don't speak English natively and you don't speak Mandarin natively. So sometimes things get lost in translation a little bit, but overall it's completely fine communicating in English. The next thing you don't need, and I mentioned this in a previous video, is that you don't need to be present in America or whatever country it is that you're importing into. Thanks to things like 3PLs, third-party logistics providers, you do not need to actually be in your country shipping your products, especially like you had to in the past. Now you can be entirely remote. In fact, there's many people running multi-million-dollar companies from the beaches of Thailand and the beaches of Mexico. You can be one of those people if you want to be. And the last thing that a lot of people think that you need that you don't need, and I'm going to be very careful here not to give the impression of giving legal advice, but the majority of the time to import into America, and this does not go for most countries, but to import into America, you don't need to actually set up a formal American company. You can be a non-resident importer with America. You don't actually need to set up a big complicated corporation or LLC in America. You don't even need to have an EIN. Now, these things may make your life a little bit easier in the long run, but for the most part, you're not going to need these things to get started. I'm going to link to a couple articles below about where you can read more about what you may and may not need in terms of business registration. But if you're worried that you're going to have to set up a brand new company in America, the chances are good that you're not going to need to do this to get started importing from China. But again, not legal advice. Check, especially with a customs broker, to see exactly what you need to import into America. But I just want to kind of relax you about that worry that you may have. All right, guys, that wraps up what you need, what you don't need, and some nice things to have importing from China. If you have any questions about getting started importing from China, comment in the comment box below or head on over to ecomcrew.com.